Hello and welcome to episode 23 of The Closing Track, the official podcast of AnotherAscendingLark.com, where the faith that you believe collides with the music that you love. I'm Austin, your host, and I am joined here today with...
Brett, your slayer of zombies.
Because Brett's looking for a job, and I'm sure Brett's favorite job in the world is slaying zombies. I mean, you're such a Walking Dead fan that I'm sure you'd love to actually go out and kill them, right?
Yeah, I would, and honestly, as much as I hate to say it, I'm pretty sure I'm with a large group of the population that secretly wishes for a zombie apocalypse.
Well, hopefully this episode won't bring on a zombie apocalypse, but we got a great episode planned for you. We have several new reviews from Brett and I and the other AAL staff. We're going to talk about the value of art and why Christians need to have a high value of art. We're going to talk about Richard Dawkins and Starbucks and Kirk Cameron, because, I mean, we can never talk about Kirk Cameron too much.
Wait, so if we're going to talk about Starbucks, we're going to talk about Starbucks lovers?
No, because they didn't do anything wrong. I mean, they...
You didn't catch the pun, did you?
Oh, yeah, no, I caught it. It just took me a second. But first, I got a really, really embarrassing story for you.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so yesterday, I had to go to Dallas for my grandparents' 50th anniversary. Me and my brother, the brother who works at the camp that must not be named, we made a suicide run down to Dallas. We drove there and back in one day, which from where we're at is about, 6.5-ish hours or so. So we did quite a bit of driving yesterday. And we go to this really, really swanky, fancy ballroom at this country club. And that was where we were going to have this party. And I was told, there would be alcohol. And knowing that my grandparents, who my grandparents were and who just my extended family is, I knew there was going to be a ton of like really, really solid and awesome wine. And there was. But I was also driving. And so I had to, make sure I had to watch what I was drinking or whatever. So I figured, what the heck, I'll just start off with a beer. They didn't have much to choose from, but I had Dos Equis. So, I mean, there were worse options on the table.
I'm confused.
Just I know. Your confusion is justified. And then shortly thereafter, about an hour later, I started having side effects from my surgery, and I started getting a bunch of pain, and so I had to take ibuprofen, which you can't drink when you have to take ibuprofen.
So how long has it been since your surgery and you're still feeling side effects from it?
I talked to my uncle, who is a doctor, and he told me that the surgery that I had, it's actually perfectly normal to be experiencing pain for the first 6 or 7 weeks or so, and then afterwards, if it's still bothering you, to reassess. But the point is, Brett, that I had access to some expensive top of the line wine, and all I had was a Dos Equis. I know.
For shame.
I know. I'm still kicking myself over it.
You broke your vow over Dos Equis.
Well, I was going to do that anyway.
I
mean, I was going to do that anyway, just because it was a celebration. Like, I mean, we're celebrating my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary. I mean, that's kind of a big deal.
Besides, I mean, you never start off with the cheap stuff. You start off with the good stuff. That way, if you need to stop for whatever, you've already experienced the best there is.
It probably was a good thing, though, that I didn't have any wine, because whenever we left, we left at night, and we were not in downtown Dallas directly, but we were definitely near downtown Dallas, and yeah, that was fun. And by fun, I mean terrifying, because driving downtown in Dallas at night on a weekend.
But still, half a glass of a nice red wine versus a bottle of Dos Equis. There's not that much alcohol volume differences.
I know, but I figured that I would have to tell you that story at some point, and what better way to tell the story by humiliating myself on the show? I mean, yeah, I know. If you want to contact us, you can find us on Facebook by searching for Another Ascending Lark. You can find us on Twitter by following AAL blog. You can visit us at AnotherAscendingLark.com. I may have already just said that. I don't remember. And lastly, and the best part, surprise, we're now on YouTube.
Yay.
We are now on YouTube, which means that you can listen to the episodes on YouTube, and if you want to, share the episodes with your friends because, you love us and you want people to hear us. And, we're trying to Jedi mind trick you over a recording, and I don't think it's working very well.
Hold on. You will share us.
On YouTube.
On YouTube.
You will share us so that people can listen and that people can like us.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is the podcast you're looking for. Hopefully it worked. We'll find out.
Yes.
We'll find out later in the week. But no, we're now on YouTube, and so if you want to listen to the episodes on YouTube, you can certainly do that. And if you want to have your friends get better access to the show, you can go to YouTube now and do all those things. All the episodes are already up there. The new episodes will be up there whenever they go live. And so hopefully someday down the road, we'll stick a video camera in front of Brett and mine's face, and you can watch us do all the really, really weird facial expressions and arm motions and dance routines and all the stuff that goes on during the show.
Yes, Austin does frequently do ballet while we're doing this show.
I mean, I'm amazed at how I'm able to maintain the levels of my microphone while I do ballet. I've never been very good at ballet, but it's just fun. And you know what? We're Baptists, so what the heck? I'm going to dance.
And every time I utter a sentence, including when I'm talking right now, I'm doing it while drinking water.
Well, that's definitely something that you should take to the next WT talent show. I'm sure you'll win a scholarship or something.
Nah.
Because...
I'll probably just lose to someone singing terribly.
Oh, well. Oh, wait, they do that at the WT talent shows?
I don't know. I don't even know if there are WT talent shows.
It's a college. How can a college not have a talent show?
If there is, then I haven't heard of it.
Well, dang, that sucks.
Yeah.
Let's get into the news first. I'm actually really kind of excited about this first piece, and I'll have to explain why I'm excited, I guess. But Richard Dawkins, the famous new atheist and controversial Twitter guy, is going to be in the upcoming Nightwish album, which is not surprising, but surprising.
So is he screaming or singing or just doing one of those weird talking in the background things?
He's just going to be contributing his glorious British accent, because I don't like Richard Dawkins at all, but I got to admit, the dude's got an awesome accent.
It does not hold a candle to Patrick Stewart, though.
Oh no, nobody ever holds a candle to Patrick Stewart. But for a British accent, it's still pretty good. No, he's going to be narrating 2 tracks on the upcoming Nightwish album, Endless Form's Most Beautiful, which releases at the end of March. And I guess when you tweet yourself into oblivion and you get your own fan base to start rejecting you, all that's left for you to do is to make random appearances on progressive metal albums.
Well, still, this isn't the most shameful thing he's ever done.
No, but this is probably a new low for him. Even magazines like Salon have rejected him.
Okay, no. His low point was when he was invited to debate William Lane Craig and didn't reject it, didn't accept it, didn't do anything, was left with a spot open for the debate, and instead it turns out he went and promoted a children's book. That was his low point. This is a little bit higher than that.
Okay, that might have been the lowest thing he's done, but this is the lowest position that he's been forced to occupy. How about that? Because I mean, he is so irresponsible on Twitter. He tweets himself into oblivion. The dude tweets some really, really bad stuff, and now even the most liberal, left-leaning atheistic magazines and websites, they're all starting to turn their back on this guy and just saying that he's a crazy old kook. And he started all this.
Yeah, especially the one where he was talking about the advice to the mother who found out her fetus had Down syndrome and said, just abort it and try again.
Yeah, so Richard Dawkins, if you're into controversy... Okay, so why am I excited about this? Because it's controversial. And I don't know. I guess I just like a lot of controversy, because who doesn't like controversy? Controversy is what drives people, isn't it? I mean...
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, controversy makes the world exciting, right?
I mean, it's not really until people start protesting about something that it gets really famous.
So, I guess Christians are going to start protesting Nightwish then?
Probably, and then Nightwish will get really big. I mean, honestly, think about it, though.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. I wouldn't mind if Nightwish got big.
I mean, honestly, think about it, though. I never heard about Harry Potter until Christians started protesting about it. I never heard about 50 Shades of Grey until Christians started protesting about it.
That's a very valid point. Harry Potter, I had heard of Harry Potter before I had learned that Christians didn't like it. But 50 Shades of Grey, I knew about that, mainly from the protests. And
Yeah.
then I remember seeing it in customers' houses at work and just being like, what is this crap?
Yeah, and as far as Harry Potter goes, I remember when I was a kid, my mom came up and talked to me and said, "Hey, Brett, have you ever heard of Harry Potter?" I said, "No." "Well, if you hear your friends talking about it, just don't read it. It's satanic, blah, 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 blah." "Okay."
And then you ended up writing your bachelor's paper, like,
Yes.
on it.
Yeah, I did. Every English undergrad major at my school has to do what we call a capstone, where we basically do a massive overhaul of one of our previous academic papers and then present it to a board of professors and anyone who just wants to come in and listen. And mine was over foreshadowing in Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. And my parents were there listening to me.
And did they like it?
Yeah, they liked it. They had no idea what the heck was going on. And I even gave a warning at the beginning, like, if y'all haven't read all the Harry Potter books, I'm about to ruin it for you.
I'm just about to just ruin all of it for
Yes.
you. I still haven't read the 7th one.
You need to.
I know, I need to, and all my Harry Potter friends at church tell me I need to, but no. So, how did we get to Harry Potter from Nightwish?
Controversy.
Controversy, yes, that's right. We'll definitely be writing on this and covering this because this is definitely a big deal. But as far as the release date for the upcoming Nightwish album is on, oh my gosh, I just lost it. Where did it go? The 31st of March, so very dang end of March. Dang it, that's a month and a half away almost. Oh well. Brett, so I hear that something's going on at Starbucks that doesn't actually involve coffee for once.
Yes, they have. There we go. They have decided to stop selling CDs.
See, I mean, granted, I don't go to Starbucks very often just because Amarillo has Palace and Roasters and they're infinitely better than Starbucks. But do you know anyone that's bought a CD from Starbucks?
No, but I mean, I have seen like a small box of CDs at Starbucks. They'll play the tracks over the loudspeaker, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. That's the only thing I know about CDs from Starbucks. I see the CDs. I think the last time I was in Starbucks, they had Macklemore's album, The Heist, on there, which...
Dang, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been inside a Starbucks, but I was like, why would I buy this from Starbucks when I can just pull out my phone and download it for probably cheaper?
Yeah. Oh, and what's funny, too, one of my friends posted on Facebook the other day about Starbucks, saying that he went there for the first time that day and asked for just, regular cup of coffee. And they said, "Sorry, but we're out. Would you like to order something else?"
Well, why even be open at that point?
I'm like, friggin' Starbucks is a coffee shop and it's out of coffee.
That's like McDonald's running out of French fries.
Yeah, I mean, that shouldn't happen. Like, someone dropped the ball when it came to stocking.
Yeah,
if they ran out of coffee.
That's a major stocking fail. Like,
yes.
How would they be open? Like, what else could they sell?
Well, I mean, they have like Italian sodas, frappuccinos.
Yes, because when you go to Starbucks, you want an Italian soda.
Yes, exactly.
That is exactly why you go to Starbucks, is for an Italian soda.
And pseudo scones, muffins.
Their scones are all right, but I mean, it's so overpriced. It's like $4 for you pay $5 for the cup of coffee, and then you pay $4 for this tiny scone. I
just realized Starbucks is taking the business model from movie theater snack stands.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That movie theaters lead the way on that because movie theaters have to make their money somehow, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but unlike movie theaters, Starbucks doesn't necessarily discourage you from sneaking in your own coffee in your purse.
Yeah.
Because that would be hilarious if someone like actually tried to sneak in coffee into Starbucks in their purse or their heavy coat.
Yeah.
That'd probably result in some serious third-degree burns.
Maybe just second degree. It'd have to be pretty dang hot to get a third-degree burn.
Either way, because it's in Starbucks, I'm now eligible to sue Starbucks and make a bunch of money off of it because, I mean, that's what the lady did with McDonald's, right? She sued a bunch. She sued because she spilled coffee on herself. The coffee was too hot, and she made like $2 billion. But
it was McDonald's coffee, though, so we would have to pour Starbucks coffee on ourselves.
Dang it! That's right. Um, that's right. So you had something else that you had something else that you wanted to cover too, right?
Yes. What the heck?
Oh, is my phone being weird?
Yes, your phone is being weird.
That's okay. It's because it's an iPhone. It's probably like it's so complicated that Android users don't know how to use it. But there you go.
Yes, because smartphones should be as complicatedly made as possible. Instead of just pushing a button, you have to enter 15 different formulas and sacrifice the blood of a virgin in order to change a page.
That sounds like something on Cards of Humanity. Again, Cards Against Humanity.
Actually, I could see that being done.
But anyway,
Anyways.
you had something else you wanted to talk about.
Yes, if Sunday night brings the Oscars and Saturday brings the Razzies,
Woot woot! I love the Razzies.
honoring the absolute worst in film,
Which I don't know why we don't do that for music, because that would be awesome.
we should do that next year.
Yes, we are going to start that next year.
But anyways, this is the 35th anniversary of the Razzies, and guess who won 4 Razzies this year?
Michael Bay?
He won 1
For what did he win for? He did.
Worst Director for Transformers 4.
Okay, because I knew he had Transformers that came out, but I didn't know if he came out with anything else that year.
And technically, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles also came out, but Megan Fox got the Razzie for Worst Supporting Actress.
Megan Fox just needs to stop.
And her thumbs look like toes.
That's just terrible. No, I have no idea who got that.
Kirk Cameron, all for Saving Christmas for Worst Picture, Worst Actor, Worst Screen Combo being Kirk Cameron and his ego, and Worst Screenplay.
So, in other words, Kirk Cameron reached a spectacular new height in that he picked up 4 Razzies in one night.
Yes.
Which the Razzies are like self-depreciated and mocking, like nobody takes them seriously. But still, the fact that Kirk Cameron picked up 4 awards, man, that's awesome. Except that it's not. It's embarrassing. Like, Kirk, just stop it, man. Just stop making bad movies.
Just stop it.
Just stop it. Just stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah, just stop it. And then, well, that was funny. Now we have to go jump gears to something that's really, really sad.
Yes.
Nicki Minaj and her team suffered a pretty violent loss earlier in the week. They were in Philadelphia rehearsing for their upcoming tour, and her tour manager was killed in a stabbing attack, and a second person was injured. And I don't know what happened to the other person, but basically, it was a very violent attack. It was random, and yeah, so tragedy in the Nicki Minaj camp. Look, I know we don't like Nicki Minaj, like, at all. Neither of us do, but this is still pretty tragic. Like, this is just a really, really terrible tragedy, and our prayers are with the families of the two that were attacked, especially with the family of the man who was killed in the attack. And we hope that the man that did this is brought to justice, because that's just terrible.
Yeah,
that's just really,
definitely
really, really sad. But yeah, let's get into reviews. I have one in particular to cover, and I know Brett is going to also start giving me like this really, really menacing look, because I'm going to say a word and he's going to look at me and it's going to go like, "Why are you talking about this?" So Brett, you know that I'm a big Gungor fan, right?
Yes.
Well, Michael Gungor has a brother named David, and he has a band called the Brilliance. And this album, and this debut album that they did, is really freaking brilliant. Like, it's brilliant.
Nice segue.
Yeah, it's really, really brilliant.
Are they better theologically?
If they are, I don't know. There wasn't anything theologically, like, particularly suspect in this album, but yeah, it's just phenomenal. Yeah, the name of the album is called Brothers, and it just came out earlier this past week. It's hard to describe it in a way, because it relies on a liturgical form of lyric writing, so it's very very repetitive in a lot of ways. There's not much melodic development or structural development as far as the lyrics go. But that's actually one of its best selling points, is that it's so accessible. You could adapt this in churches. You could adapt this for private worship. And then the music. Oh yeah, the music. Definitely loving the music. It's like Gungor's Ghosts Upon the Earth Part 2, which Ghosts Upon the Earth is our 2011 album of the year. And even though I've come to have like eternally major disagreements with Gungor, I still stand by the fact that Ghosts Upon the Earth is a freaking phenomenal album. And this album has a lot of similarities with that album. It sounds the same in various places, which makes it a little bit familiar, but it also kind of makes it, I don't know. The comparisons to Gungor, to Michael Gungor, are a little bit too strong on this album. And I think that's the only thing that detracts from it, is that the originality is there, but David Gungor definitely sounds like his brother, which I don't know if David's the younger brother or the older brother. I'll have to look that up in other places. But no, it's definitely theologically robust. It's very accessible. They don't sing about anything that's too terribly complicated. It starts off with Brother, the title track, which basically is the line, when I look into the face of my enemy, I see my brother, which is it's an interesting line to kick off the album. Now and at the hour is a very Trinitarian driven prayer. Yahweh, and the following track, Does Your Heart Break, has really solid crescendos musically and lyrically. Especially Does Your Heart Break. That one is a major heartstring puller, and that one it's a lament, which how many laments have we heard in the worship scene as of late? Not very many.
Not really.
Yeah, this is definitely a lament, and it's questioning, where is God when these things happen. It makes a nod to third world poverty. It makes a nod to Eric Gardner without actually dropping his name, which I thought was a really poignant drop to make, and it's really powerful and really gripping. Love Remains is Love Remains, like just that phrase, Love Remains, that seems to be like one of the standard stock phrases for worship songs nowadays. Everybody does it.
Just remains, and then in the hip hop scene, it's been unashamed.
That's definitely getting old. But the Brilliance version of Love Remains is actually really solid and very, very biblical. It's just great. Make Us One, towards the end of the album, is probably the most musically sophisticated, and then May You Find a Light at the end starts out kind of underwhelming, and then it crescendos into this really upbeat classical pop sound that makes really good use of the strings and of the orchestral and classic sounds of the album. Yeah, the violin and the string work on this album is phenomenal. It's got a real great classical rock vibe, or classical pop vibe to it, I should say, and is definitely one of the best releases to start the year off. This is definitely the worship album to beat at the moment. So I'm going to pin this at a 9, only because the comparisons to Gungor, like I mentioned, they're a little too strong and kind of detract from the originality a little bit, but seriously, Brett, you need to listen to this. This is amazing stuff.
We'll see.
Yeah, you definitely need to listen to it. A fair warning, if you are on Rhapsody, it is on Rhapsody, but it has the band listed as a rap band.
What?
They're definitely not a rap band. Rhapsody occasionally puts people in some really interesting categories, and so I punched in the Brilliance on Rhapsody, and I was like, okay, well, I don't see anyone here explicitly, so I'll just start, looking through, and I finally found it, but they tagged it as a rap band, which...
No. If you think that's bad, back in my earlier high school days when I was really into Insane Clown Posse.
What?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which some of their songs I still find enjoyable. But anyways, back in the day when I was really into Insane Clown Posse.
That's just painful to even hear.
Yeah. One of the two tracks, or one of the two albums of The Wraith, The Final Joker's Card, was listed as gospel/religious.
Yeah, because that's totally accurate.
Yeah.
They're definitely not that at all.
Thanks, Apple.
Yeah, thanks, Apple. You kind of dropped the ball on that one. No, but as far as the other music critics of AAL go, critic Josh published 2 reviews for us this week of Milo Green and Brandon Heath. He said of Milo Green that they depart from their original established sound, but that they make the new sound work, and that Brandon Heath is pretty much exactly the same, which is the kind of the status quo for Christian pop artists, is to just stay the same. So if you are wanting to hear Josh's thoughts on Milo Green and Brandon Heath, go to anotherascendinglark.com and look that up. And then lastly, this is probably the big one for the two of us. You were pretty excited about Imagine Dragons' new album Smoke and Mirrors, weren't you?
Yeah, I mean, their last album is pretty good. The song they've been playing on the radio, I Bet My Life, is really good. So I was really pumped to see their new album, but it definitely disappointed. I think this is a classic example of a sophomore slump album.
I wrote the review for this online, but I haven't heard your thoughts on it yet. What exactly made you think it was a sophomore slump?
I mean, listen to the first song, Shots, which at first I thought was going to be a cover of a Lil Jon song.
Well, that would have been really weird.
That would have been, but nah. I mean, that one was decent. Gold had an incredibly weird opening.
It was pretty weird.
I was just like, what the heck is happening?
It was very schizophrenic.
Here? Yeah. And I mean, like I said, the only song that I really thought was good on this album was I Bet My Life. Everything else was meh.
Which even then, like, I Bet My Life, the chorus was just kind of... It was catchy musically, but lyrically, it's just it's very repetitive.
Every other part of the song, though, like the verses, those were pretty good lyrically. But, I mean, yeah, you're right. The chorus was repetitive. And at first, when I heard it, I thought I was listening to, like, Mumford & Sons or something.
Oh, that's a compliment, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded very Mumford & Sons-esque.
It does sound very Mumford & Sons-esque now that you say that.
I mean, there's a kick, stomp, clap standard during the
during the chorus, yeah. No, I can see that. That makes a lot of sense.
And the gruffness of his voice in that
there was
particular song.
The gruffness of the band. Like, I'm pretty sure that was the whole entire band. And then I don't know if you heard this or not, but it sounded like Elmo was singing in the chorus. Like there's this really high pitched I Bet My Life that's just kind of stated in the choruses. It's kind of buried in the mix, but I'm like, oh, this track guest stars Elmo.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that. I'll have to listen to it again.
Yeah, and then you didn't notice this the first time around, but I told you about the Disturbed
yes
reference.
Yeah, and Friction. I can't remember what exactly it says, but said
I get down with the victim.
Yeah, I get down with the victim. I was just like, huh?
The phrase itself is fine, but I mean the way he sings it is exactly.
I get down with the victim.
Yeah, it's very much like Down with the Sickness, and I'm just like, what? It caught me off guard when I first heard it, just because I'm like, what in the world is I didn't think that Imagine Dragons would ever listen to, like, Disturbed. Like, that doesn't strike me as a band that they'd want to listen to.
Well, I mean, a lot of different artists listen to a lot of varying other artist types. I kind of... yeah.
Artists listen to artist types.
But I mean, like, Ozzy probably doesn't only listen to classic metal.
I'm sure Ozzy listens to Casting Crowns.
I'm sure. I mean, absolutely.
I'm sure that Ozzy is a huge Casting Crowns
The Prince of Darkness must listen to Casting Crowns.
There's somewhere I could go with that, but I'm not going to go there with that.
Satanist walks into Lifeway.
Yeah. I definitely... I thought that Shots, I Bet My Life, and then I thought Trouble was a really, really good one. But yeah, everything else I definitely thought was bleh. And the album is, like, super depressing. Like, lyrically, like, this is probably the most mellow and depressing pop album I think I've ever heard.
Which, I mean, there's not anything necessarily wrong with that, but you can overdo it.
Yeah, and especially like take Shots. I mean, Shots is a really fun, dancey pop song.
I'm shooting holes through everything I love. It's a very depressing line, but the music itself is upbeat.
Yeah, when I first heard that, I was like, oh man, I'm really digging this. Oh, this is really, really, like, depressing. Like, now the guy does suffer from depression. He said that he talked about that in a Billboard interview that he had a couple of weeks ago, that he's, clinically depressed, and there's a place for that in pop, but there's also a time and place for everything, and not every song has to be, super, super depressing.
Tell that to Adele and Taylor Swift.
Well, Adele, I think, took a depressive situation and, like, turn it around on itself. These songs are just straight up depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, these are just depressing songs. What would you pin the album at? Like, what would you say?
Probably like a 5.5.
Okay, that's exactly what I pinned it. So,
Yeah, I purposely avoided reading your review of it so I wouldn't be corrupted by your thoughts.
well, I don't want to corrupt you with my thoughts anyway, because that'd be really sad.
Yeah.
You need to keep me away from the children,
Yes, I do.
because I'm such a terrible influence on society and everybody. So don't let my thoughts corrupt anybody.
Don't listen to anything he says. Only listen to everything I say on this podcast.
Yeah, that's definitely a really good idea. I am excited, though. On Tuesday, Red's new album Of Beauty and Rage is coming out, and I am super, super excited to be listening to that. We also got new albums from All That Remains, Kid Rock, Matt Carney, Of Mice and Men, the Airborne Toxic Event, and a bunch of other bands. I'm definitely calling dibs on Red. Like,
Yeah.
totally calling dibs on Red. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of good stuff coming out next week. I think Josh is going to take Matt Kearney, just because he's, popular everywhere. He's definitely a radio success story. But yeah, a lot of good stuff coming out next week. So definitely check out some new music if you're interested. So let's get into our main course. Brett, put you on the spot. What makes art valuable?
Its value.
What does that mean?
It means its value. But
We could just play that put that on a broken record. What makes
its
art
value. Its value. Its value. But not probably its general aesthetic beauty.
Okay, I mean, I don't disagree with that. What makes art beautiful?
Its value.
Yeah, we could definitely repeat that forever and ever on end. Yeah, we're continuing to move through Schaeffer's art in the Bible. We're now on the second essay, which the second essay I think is going to be a lot more fun for us to talk about, because this one is like the most relevant and applicable to like us at the present moment, because he actually lays out like the case for the Christian understanding of the arts, which we do this show because we think that doesn't exist, especially in the church.
Yep.
We love the church, and we definitely think great things of the church and of our fellow Christians. But as far as the church as a whole, we have not done a good job learning and teaching others about art and how to think about creativity and beauty. So, what gives art value? Well, first of all, what do we even mean by art? Brett, if I were to go over to the window and punch it, and for the reason of making art, would that really be art?
Not unless you rearrange the glass pieces into a mosaic.
The bloody glass pieces.
Yes.
Because my hand is going to be, cut in 1,000 different places.
And I mean, you could wrap a t-shirt around your fist first, though.
No, but that wouldn't be fun. Like, it loses its symbolic value of me punching a window for no reason.
Fair enough. Although it's kind of funny you say that, because in the first episode of Life is Strange, one thing you can do altering the timeline is have someone avoid getting hit in the head with a football, and instead the football breaks a window, and then it's one of the sort of hidden objectives in the game to take a picture of that broken window.
Cool. That's pretty interesting. Schaeffer gives us a pretty good definition of art. He says, art, as I am using the word, does not include just high art, that is, painting, sculpting, poetry, classical music, etc., but also the more popular expressions, the novel, the theater, the cinema, popular music, and rock. Which, I mean, I thought rock was from the devil, so, that's surprising that a prominent Christian thinker would cite the devil's music as an art form.
Well, blues and jazz is also considered the devil's music.
Everything is considered
And
the
now
devil's
rap
music.
is considered the devil's music.
What isn't considered the devil's music?
Hymns, Gregorian chants.
Whatever is played on Christian radio.
Yes.
That's the only non-satanic music. in
Well, I know of
existence.
a website that would even say most of the stuff on Christian radio is satanic.
I know what website you're talking about. That's a crazy website. So yeah, when we're talking about art here, like we're not talking about upper level stuff. And even though this is like a music podcast, Brett and I are definitely fans of good books. I mean, you're an English major, so you have to read, all the good stuff.
Shakespeare.
Yeah, I mean, you're reading Shakespeare right now. We like good television shows, good movies. We might be a music podcast, and that might be our main thing. But when we're talking about art here, we're not talking about just music per se, although that's our focus. We're also talking about, whatever you're watching on TV right now. Is it an art? Is it art? Is it good? Is it true? Is it beautiful? Is it funny? Is it depressing? What is it saying? What is it not saying? Why
All
are
of
you
these questions and more can be applied to Doctor Who.
Yeah, Doctor Who. That's definitely a question that we will never answer. Back to the why does art have value though? If I were to tell you like that art has value in and of itself, does that seem like a really redundant statement in a way?
Not really to me.
Well, that's because you're the host of this show. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, if I were to go up to a random person in a mega church and say that art has value in of itself, do you think that might be a well duh statement or a mind blowing like the universe is ending revelation?
I don't know. I mean, I actually think some people might deny that in a mega church type setting.
Or
Like,
even-
no, it depends on what it's about.
Yeah, or like what it's about, because we're super obsessed with the message of everything. Like, especially when it comes to music, like, oh my gosh, the message of that song is terrible. That's why you have to listen to Christian radio, because all the messages on Christian radio are, positive and encouraging and wholesome, even though that's not always the case. Why does an artwork have value in of itself? Schaefer notes that as Christians, we know why a work of art has value, because a work of art is a work of creativity, and creativity has value because God is the creator. The very first sentence in the declaration in the Bible is a declaration that the Creator created in the beginning. God created the heavens and the earth. Therefore, the first reason that creativity has value is that God is the creator, which that stands quite in contrast from the secular worldviews that are shoved in our faces all the time, that creativity is something that we have stored within ourselves. Our creativity is something that we just store up and release within ourselves, when really we get our creativity from God.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I remember I saw this one stupid thing posted on the internet and shared from some atheist page saying, look at your hand. Now look at your other hand. You are made literally of stardust. And and the stardust that made one hand probably came from a different star that made your other hand. There is nothing more beautiful or more poetic than that.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
What? No. That sounds like a very Doctor Who sort of line,
Yeah.
in a sense. But no, as Christians we need to really emphasize why we are creative. Why even like Marilyn Manson. We talked about Marilyn Manson.
Yeah.
Was it last week we talked about Marilyn Manson?
I think so.
Yeah, I think it was last week, and how we acknowledge that he was a pretty good musician, even though he is probably the most anti-Christian musician to have ever graced the public eye.
And then, believe it or not, but just because a band has the word Christian affiliated with them doesn't mean they're good artists.
Well, it doesn't mean they're good artists, but it also their creativity isn't always creativity is good, but just because something is creative doesn't mean it's good. Which we see that a lot, I think, in like contemporary art discussions, where we see that someone has expressed themselves, and because they've expressed themselves, it's automatically valid and totally high quality art.
Like that stupid painting that was painted almost entirely blue except for one white stripe in the middle that sold for millions of dollars.
Or the story of the janitor at the art museum who accidentally, and by accidentally I meant good job on the janitor, cleaned up and threw away what he thought was a bunch of trash left over from an event, but it was really a high dollar art exhibit. Which, did you hear about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that janitor has a better taste in art than every employee at that art museum.
And I remember I might have said this on the show before, but once on Facebook I saw a picture of a modern art museum and a bunch of people walking around a glove on the floor and looking at it. And the caption was, "My friend dropped his glove in the middle of a modern art museum and people are wandering around looking at it, wondering if it's art or not."
Oh my gosh. That's funny. That's really, really, really funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, Schaefer continues on that an artwork has value as a creation because man is made in the image of God, and therefore man not only can love and think and feel emotion, but also has the capacity to create. All people are, to some degree, creative, and creativity is instinct to our man-ishness. I love that word, man-ishness. That's a word that we need to revive in the modern hipster lexicon, is mannishness.
Indeed.
But how does that stand in contrast from art or the way we think about art in everyday life? Do we automatically link our creativity back to God? I mean, I struggle to do that sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, if we really don't do it that much in the church, then of course the secular world, which is most of the world, of course doesn't attribute that sort of stuff to God.
Yeah, why would they? Like, why would they attribute something to the God that either they don't believe in or the God they deliberately rebel against?
And then, I mean, also there's some that take it to the extreme that say, this song isn't about God, so it's not inspired by God, so we don't need to listen to it. We only need to listen to music inspired by God.
Which, that is a theological... you're stepping on a nuclear mine.
Yeah.
Because, that's definitely a serious theological problem. Like, inspiration. Okay, let's talk about inspiration. When you were inspired to write the manuscripts for your novels, do you think that God, like, directly inspired the words that you wrote in your books?
No.
Okay, why not?
Because the Bible's already been written.
Oh my gosh. There's so much confusion about the word inspiration. When we talk about, we need to be careful when we say, like, God inspired X, because inspiration is a word that theologically is often tied to scripture. And so when you go around saying, oh, that song was inspired, by God. Well, okay, maybe that person had some sort of like inspiration. Like maybe someone was moved by the beauty of Christ on the cross and decided to write something about it. Is that the same thing as God, like, directly inspiring them?
Not at all.
No. Like,
and some people say, like, oh, you're just messing with semantics there. But no, that's something we need to be very, very careful about. Because I even remember I participated in this one discussion on the movie God's Not Dead in the Reformed pub. And I, of course, joined the people not liking it. And then someone said, hey, my friend's uncle helped make this movie. How dare you bash something that was inspired by the Holy Spirit?
Yeah, that's definitely a problem.
And I was like, you sure you want to use those words?
You keep using those words. I don't know. I got what he was saying. Like,
yeah.
I definitely got what he was saying. But the problem is we don't have a good grasp on theological vocabulary to accurately express what we're trying to say. And so we say the wrong thing, and we get ourselves in trouble. But is the fact that that creativity is part of our mannishness, that doesn't automatically make everything we create good? Like,
not at all.
I mean, if anything, the fall taints that. And as a result, we have One Direction.
We have Iggy Azalea. We have Nicki Minaj.
That's a really terrible example. The One Direction's last album was passable.
Okay, let's just say William Hung then.
There we go. William Hung. I haven't heard that name in a long time. What's that guy up to these days?
I don't know, but I do know he at least has like 3 or so albums that actually sold pretty well.
Really?
Yes.
I mean, everybody knows him because, American Idol, but that's amazing. Yeah. I didn't know that.
And like on the last season of American Idol that I actually watched, he performed.
No way.
Yes.
He performed on American Idol.
And Simon Cowell was scowling.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Was just scowling the entire time, and he clearly hated that he had to sit there and listen to this crap.
Hated every single second of it. Schaefer notes that we got to be careful to not reverse reverse this. Not every creation is great art, nor is all that man makes good, either intellectually or morally. So while creativity is a good thing in of itself, it does not mean that everything that comes out of man's creativity is good. Which I think that's a pretty important thing, and I think that's something that you see in secular circles. This idea that like when we hit on this earlier, that oh well, I expressed myself, and so my expression is automatically good. We ground goodness in expression and not in God, and so we have artworks like the guy at the university who went around sticking condoms on crosses and calling it art. He expressed himself, and he was creative in the most debased sense of creative, and so his work is automatically art, right?
And then I remember when I was in high school, I heard about sort of a youth art competition in Amarillo. The guy who won bought a piece of black canvas.
Yes, you told me about that.
And like, it's just so deep. I'm like, what?
Yeah. So whenever we see like these stories of like these crazy art pieces, like the painting that you mentioned earlier that sold for millions and millions of dollars, is one thing. But when you have like, there was a story about this kid who was going to have sex on stage as an art demonstration.
Oh yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, and then
he did. I don't think he ended up doing it.
Here's what he did. He set up a private booth, just for him and one other person, and only whoever else was in there could see it. A guy who, was a reporter on it came in and did this, and he was sitting there with a pile of bananas, handed him a banana and said, "Put this in my mouth X amount of times." So he did. Then the guy took the banana from him, broke it, and told him to leave.
Yeah, I mean...
And he said the reason why... He said, "I never said that I was going to have sex with someone on stage. I never said blah, blah, blah. You only wanted to hear that." And I'm like, there are multiple articles quoting you saying that this is what you're going to do.
Well, and he wanted to do that because he, in the non-Christian worldview, he misplaced his understanding of good art. He thought he was doing something profound and amazing when he wasn't. Like it was stupid and disgusting and just wrong. But he thought that, oh well, I'm expressing myself, and the fact that I'm expressing myself, we're told in society to express ourselves, to express our heart's desires. When on the Christian worldview, our hearts aren't all that great.
Not at all.
Our hearts are kind of sick and depraved, and we need a savior.
And deceitful above all things.
And we're kind of screwed up. All of us are. So the Christian worldview when it comes to arts, and this is something that in the church especially I think needs to be countered. Just because you're expressing yourself on something doesn't mean that it's good. And we find that especially in the art community, just like that's the bar. Like, okay, you've expressed yourself. You've automatically have made good work, when we need to fight that.
Definitely.
Because, no.
Because, like, perfect example, in Psycho-Pass, there was that one certain... In Psycho-Pass, one of the villains in one of the many story arcs was creating art by mutilating corpses and putting them out as a public display.
Yeah. And
under the view, you have to just express yourself. She created good art.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with the benchmark of expression is that we don't understand just how sinful we are and how our expressions are tainted with sin. And just because we express ourselves doesn't automatically mean that it's good. Creativity is something that we find in every culture and age, but because of our fallenness, like we don't create the way that we ought to, and we also don't think about creativity the way we do. And so Schaeffer notes that there are three possible positions someone can take regarding art. The first position, he says, that the first view is relatively recent theory of art for art's sake. This is the notion that art's just there, and that's all there is to it. You can't talk about it, you can't analyze it, and it doesn't say anything. Which, like, I haven't encountered that personally very much, but I'm sure it's out there.
Yeah, it's called asceticism. I mean, we've dealt with it a lot in my class. As Oscar Wilde is probably one of the biggest aestheticists there is. And I mean, you read or watch some of his plays, and you definitely can see that. I mean, he just wanted to produce a regular piece of art. Like, he didn't really ever say much of anything, except for the picture of Dorian Gray.
Well,
That was an exception.
yeah.
But I mean, I can actually see some value to this. I mean, of course, I don't wholeheartedly disagree with it, but I mean, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Sometimes a painting is just a painting.
I think what Schaefer had in mind with this is that it's almost inscrutable. Like the what he's saying here is that you can't talk about it, you can't analyze it, it doesn't say anything because it's pointless in a way. I think he might be getting at maybe the examples like this couple of stories we mentioned, like the one that you talked about for the youth art competition.
Okay.
There's nothing to it. Like, there's nothing to talk about because it doesn't have anything to talk about.
Okay, I can understand.
I think that's what he's getting at, because you're hitting on his third point, and his second point is the one that we have to deal with all the time. Art is only an embodiment of a message, a vehicle for the propagation of a particular message about the world, or the artist, or the man, or whatever. Translation: the Christian music industry.
Yep.
Well,
Or
not even
Freud.
well, not even the Christian music industry too. I mean, the secular industry, or the secular market, definitely has this problem too, doesn't it? Because we're in such a message driven society right now,
Definitely.
and so we have to fight messages everywhere. That's why we're doing this on the Christian worldview, because the Christian worldview is a competing worldview with every other worldview that's being pushed in our faces from everywhere else, right?
Yeah, and when the version of the Christian worldview we're getting from a lot of the Christian contemporary music scene doesn't really match up. I mean, you hear the positive alternative, positive and uplifting music,
And there's a place for that.
There is, but I'm like, okay, a guy was whipped with a cat of nine tails where his muscles were probably exposed, maybe his bones, then dragged a heavy wooden cross up a hill to be nailed to it where he slowly suffocated.
Well, and even, okay, like, think the 21 Christians that were executed by
Yes,
ISIS.
that.
I mean, positive and encouraging doesn't necessarily fit that.
Not at all.
Like, if anything, that's actually kind of ignoring what's happening. Art is an embodiment of a message. It's hard because we need to the role of the message in a song or a movie, whatever, is definitely important. But like Saving Christmas. Saving Christmas definitely is guilty of this, where it's all about the message that we need to reclaim Christmas from the heathens.
Yeah.
And the process, he made the worst movie of all time. Kirk Cameron made the worst movie ever. So the middle ground, and you were hitting on the middle ground, that the third notion of the nature of art is I just lost my point. Where did it go?
I can go ahead and read it real quick.
Oh, you have it? Oh,
Yes, I showed you that I have it on my phone.
that's right.
And then I told you that my Android has a much better interface on Evernote than your iPod does. iPhone.
I have an anti-Android filter. I never hear anything about Androids because iPhone is the greatest thing ever.
Anywho, since Austin can't make his Apple product work, I will use my superior Android product to read the third basic notion of the nature of art, the one I think is right, the one that really produces great art and the possibility of great art, is that the artist makes a body of work, and this body of work shows his worldview.
What? Like, great art and a worldview at the same time? Like, mind is blown.
I'm sorry, when you said that, I thought, look at you, Jaeger, you're all loose and tight at the same time.
Yeah, so it's a matter of striking a balance, which is why I think, Theocracy. I think Theocracy models this really well, where the music and the art is great, and then the worldview that's coming through it is also great.
Definitely.
And then when the art is great and the worldview is kind of, bad, it amplifies the worldview, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think. There was an example that popped into my head, but the coffee made it go away. Bad coffee. You're not supposed to make things go away. We have to hold both at equal ground. Like, we can't totally distance the intellectual message, but we also can't subjugate music and poetry and drama just for the sake of a message, because that's what propaganda is. And
Yeah.
we don't need more propaganda in this world. If anything, we need more beauty in this world. Because propaganda is everywhere.
I don't know, I mean, Propaganda is a pretty good rapper, I think.
Hey, that's right. Propaganda is the name of a rapper who does not make propaganda. He actually makes really good rap.
Yes, he does.
We should have him come on the show and talk about
should.
that. We should definitely have propaganda. And if we could get Lecrae on the show, dude, that would be
Yes.
so much fun.
Hey, Lecrae, you're from Texas too, right? Come on up here.
Hey, Lecrae, sorry, but I don't think our apartment's tall enough for you. He's a giant. Like, he's a big dude.
Really?
Yeah. Lecrae? Oh, yeah. He's a tall guy.
Like, how tall are we talking? Like 7 feet?
No, I don't think he's 7 feet, but I think he's close to that. But Schaefer concludes like this whole entire segment and wraps it up with the suggestion for the artist that the artist should like begin his work by setting out to make a work of art. Which that's, I don't know. There's something revolutionary in that, in something in a world where, okay, I got to write this song because I need to sell a record, or I got to write this song because I'm trying to get on the radio. When's the last time that we've done something or we've seen something that's created just for the purpose of making great art? I mean, I haven't seen it in quite a while. Mm-hmm. I mean, you wrote your books.
Singular. Just one so far.
Yeah, that's right. You wrote your one book for school. I mean, you wrote it for school and for getting it published,
Which didn't work out, but I will.
But you also wrote it to tell a good story. Mm-hmm. So it's so weird that Schaefer's suggestion that we should go out and make art for the sake of making great art, and that's enough, because instinctively we're like, well, yeah, but I need to do this, or I need to make it about that, or especially as Christians, the impulse is, oh, I have to make it about Jesus. Like, no, when we can make works of arts about whatever we want. We've hit that nail pretty hard about the freedom of Christ. And it's amazing how Schaefer's suggestions in this book, they're so down to earth that they're so down to earth that they feel like well-does statements. And it's sad that they have to be well-does statements.
Yeah.
They definitely shouldn't have to be well-does statements, but yeah, in other words, make art for the sake of making art, because art has value in of itself, because man is creative because God has made him in his image to be creative. But just because you create something doesn't make it right. So don't do something stupid and call it good, because chances are it's probably not going to be very good.
Don't just like dump trash on the floor and tell your roommates, no, I'm making art. It's fine. Just leave it there.
I swear if you try to do that here.
Well, our trash cans are full.
No, just get that out of your head. Brett, you got any recos this week?
Yes, I mentioned this to you a bit earlier, but I finally recently got around to playing The Evil Within.
Ah, yes, that's right. You told me about that.
Which, for those of you who don't know, it's sort of the first game in a while that revives the old school vibe of the survival horror game.
Which, I mean, I haven't played much of that genre, but I hear that it's been kind of stale as of late.
Yeah, I mean, Silent Hill was probably one of the biggest ones that went around there. Resident Evil was really big in that style, but ever since 4, they sort of shifted to more survival horror / action.
Uh-huh.
But Evil Within, you truly feel helpless. Now, I have to warn y'all, this is without a doubt the goriest game I have ever played.
Comparing to Evangelion.
This is a much more violent than that.
Really?
I mean, it is extremely violent.
Is it violent for a purpose, or is it just violent just because it likes violence?
It is violent for a purpose, but I'm still kind of in the early stages of the game, so I haven't figured out what the heck is happening yet.
Ah, okay.
And that's one of the main things that makes it so scary is, I mean, a lot of games will start off and be like, here's the premise, here's what's going on, now deal with it.
No, have fun.
With this one, okay, you start off in this, I'll just sort of give a brief synopsis of what I've done so far, trying to spoil too much. You start off in this mental institution where a bunch of people have been killed.
Like every good,
Yes.
horror story.
Then you're watching security tapes, and this dude who looks like Ezio at first glance to me just sort of appears in a blur and kills 3 people on camera. Then he appears behind you. Next thing you know, you're strung up by your ankle, along with a bunch of other people strung up by their ankles.
Well, this is depressing.
Yes, and basically, I'll avoid the gory details, but you escape, go back outside. I'm thinking, okay, this was the shocking bit, because trust me, what I just said is nowhere close to how shocking it gets in the beginning. Like, this is the shocking bit at the beginning of the game. Now it's about to calm down. I'm going to explain to these people what happened and then start the investigation. That's what's going to happen. No. I get outside and everything around me just starts collapsing and turning to ashes. Like, all the buildings, the streets. I mean,
Dang.
And then, like, when you actually get out of that area, you see that the entire area you were just in is spinning like a record on a turntable.
Well.
And then you see it's just like this pit of destruction. And I'm like, oh, crap. Well, I just escaped from that, so I'm good. No, you're not good. Because you get into a wreck and even more disturbing stuff happens. And I just want to go home, and it's terrifying, and it won't let me go home.
Wow.
Even the save points are really creepy. There is nothing about this game that lets you relax and be comfortable.
Isn't it great that that's not how real life works? That because of the gospel, we don't have to worry about stuff like that, because the gospel gives us eternal security in Christ.
Definitely.
Because in situations like that where you feel just that helplessness, thankfully that's not how the way the world works. That because of the gospel of Jesus Christ, eternal security from the worst that this world could ever bring us, we are eternally secured and safe from that destruction.
Yeah.
In
nice
Christ.
Jesus juke there.
Well, I mean, that's what we're about, right? Is Jesus
Yeah.
juking. I mean, what greater form of art than the Jesus juke? If you can master the
course.
Jesus juke, you are like, you're Michelangelo. Like, if you can Jesus juke, Michelangelo's got nothing on you.
Yep, indeed. But no, I mean, yeah, just like I said, fair warning, it is incredibly violent and it is incredibly scary. So if you're not into that, stay away from it. But if you are, it's good, and it's not just something that focuses on jump scares or just shocking violence. It actually does have substance behind it, which has been surprisingly lacking in horror games as of late.
Definitely interesting. I'm gonna reco King's Kaleidoscope. I know that we have. I know that that's our 2014 album of the year, but I just can't. I can't reco them enough. I made my brother listen to it on the way down to Dallas, and he was converted and is now a fan of the band. And so, yeah, if you haven't listened to King's Kaleidoscopes and their album Becoming Who We Are, go pick that up. It's really freaking good. Definitely an outstanding worship album. But yeah, that's my record for this week. And also, if you're at a place where good wine is being served, drink the good wine. Don't drink Dos Equis.
That's even worse than going to the IDK and ordering Budweiser.
That is pretty bad. That is definitely pretty bad. Well, Brett, thanks for taking time out of your Sunday afternoon to do this with me. I appreciate it.
Of course, anytime. I absolutely love doing this.
Yeah, I do too. And I would like to thanks to Rhapsody for being the best streaming service and for giving us all the music that we're able to cover. Thanks for everyone who's listened and giving us feedback. We definitely appreciate it. Thanks to God for the gospel of Jesus Christ. It's the reason why we do this show. The fact that free salvation is offered to us by the work of Jesus Christ to save us from our sin and from our death is truly a wonderful and amazing thing, and that's why we do this show, and that's what we try to aim for as the center of everything we do. Brett, what were you drinking earlier? What's the beer of the episode for this time around?
That was Deschutes Fresh Squeezed IPA.
It's definitely really good. If you want to contact us, you can get a hold of us at Facebook. Just search Another Ascending Lark. You can also find us on Twitter at AALblog. You can send us an email at anotherascendinglark@gmail.com, and of course visit anotherascendinglark.com, where you can read the new reviews that we've published and a bunch of other feature articles, and of course check us out on YouTube. We now have the shows on YouTube if you want to listen there. Thanks for listening, guys. We will see you next week, and hopefully we'll have we definitely will have more great reviews, more really interesting news, and more great things to talk about. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.